Hi again. In 30 Years a Watchtower Slave by William Schnell, Chapter 10, he's back in America now, where he was born after 13 years in Germany, and notes how backwards the American printing and American Jehovah's Witness life is compared to Germany. Backwards in the sense that there's a resistance in America that wasn't there in Germany to the theocratic reordering of what was originally Russellism. I rejoined the ranks, so after a certain period of being dispirited and rather more objective than he had been before about Jehovah's Witnesses, he rejoins the ranks in the late 20s and early 30s as the Depression sets in America. In order to get sufficient loyal personnel trained, they initiated the Pioneer Service, which was the successor to the colporteur work under Charles T. Russell. They began to forge this group into a loyal primary reservoir of trained personnel for the time when the great push would come and the day when the theocracy would dawn. The pioneers became pampered darlings of the judge, his spiritual shock troops of full-time servants. At every turn he showed his partiality to them. For example, he would occasionally send each of them a whole carton of books free of charge, so that, as he put it, they could buy a pair of shoes and walk well shod on the earth. Now these pioneers were used in the same fashion we in Germany had used the Bethelites and other closely allied with us. The Watchtower ranks increased greatly in numbers when the Depression hit us. Many of the newcomers naturally gravitated towards the pioneer service. Within my family, who now began to sense that things were beginning to move like they had begun to move in Germany in 1924, and who thought this was a blessing, plans were made to enter into the pioneer service too. Finally, in 1931, my father having already become a pioneer in 1930, my father, sister, and her husband pooled their resources and bought themselves a Model A Ford. Father built a house trailer, one of the first ones I ever saw. The society at this time was supplying blueprints for trailers. One day in the summer of 1931, they hitched the Ford to the trailer and began to pioneer in a county of upstate New York. During all this time, I was under constant pressure from them to join them in this operation. Finally, early in 1933, after about 2 years of resisting, I consented. I bought a Ford coupe and joined the group in Clark County, Georgia, in which the city of Athens is situated. Many families at that time worked together in this way to push the pioneer work. Now he has a subhead, Watchtower Charity. The reader will at this point kindly pardon a digression which is necessary to an understanding of Watchtower practice. Since the Watchtower organization is frankly out to establish a New World Society, or a worldwide organization under the rule of the Watchtower theocracy, it cannot afford to be a charitable organization. It has to its credit, no bona fide charitable works, which at best it considers maudlin sentimentality. They usually justify this by misusing the Lord's statement, "Let the dead bury their dead," Luke 9:60. Or they denounce the organized charitable works of Christendom as hypocrisy, and as being on a par with the works of the Pharisees, which the Lord condemned with the words, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye are like unto whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead men's bones and all uncleanness. Even so ye also outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within ye are full of hypocrisy and iniquity." Matthew 23, 27, and 29. They use the Lord's dictum against vain display of good works, as couched by the Lord in the words of Matthew 6, 2-5. "When therefore thou doest alms, sound not the trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you, they have received their reward." In thus upbraiding Christendom for its organized charities, they cleverly throw up a smokescreen to divert attention from the complete lack of charitable works by their so-called Christian organization. As a boy and man, I served them for 30 years and have yet to find practiced by that organization any real charity that could be called spontaneous and proper. Yet, wonder of wonders, they do insist that they practice charity. How? Why, in their work of preaching, by going from house to house, by bringing people to their meetings in kingdom halls, and by selling their magazines. This to them is more valid than any and all the charity practiced by organized Christendom. It does not bother them that they practice in the very way the Pharisees did, which manner Jesus plainly and strongly condemned. They certainly perform their acts of charity openly. They report to the Watchtower Society every hour they spend doing such work, the actual number of books they place, the number of back calls they make, the book studies they hold in people's houses. They stand on street corners to be seen of men with a magazine bag around their necks, selling magazines. In their Kingdom Hall meetings, they erect charts on which they publish the monthly result of their charitable works and set themselves quotas to be accomplished throughout the year. This has, of course, all died in the last few years, it would seem. But for decades and decades after he writes this book, this is what they do every year, is it not, in their yearbook. They devote hourly meetings, called service meetings, to the open discussion of what they contend to be charitable works. And then they eagerly expect to be rewarded openly for fulfilling their Watchtower Society set quotas. They look for appointments as servants, or for good standing in the congregation and with the society. The Watchtower Society condemns and ridicules the charities performed by organized Christendom as being done in order to advertise and display its good works. In their claim that their witness work is a real charitable work, they likewise condemn themselves, for they must assuredly perform their so-called works of charity openly and in keen anticipation of rewards. With this digression over, I wish to point out that since the Watchtower organization is not charitable in any true sense of the word, we pioneers were soon taught not to look for any financial support from the society in any measure. While they claim authority to tell us how to work and how many hours to put in each month, they did not follow through with financial support. In this respect, they conducted themselves as any sales organization. They put all pioneers on commission. At that time, we received our books for 8 cents and sold them for 35 cents. If a pioneer over a period of time failed for any reason whatever to pay his bill, the society stopped sending him books until he cleared up his account. Most of us who entered the pioneer service had little or no money. About all we had was the necessary initial equipment, a car, and a trailer. To be a pioneer then required some real business acumen. Many started out, but only a hardcore remained over the years. When you analyze who they were and how they worked, then you come to realize how much a business was this Watchtower-directed preaching of the gospel of the kingdom and its star performers, the pioneers. More about the pioneers next time. Put in a link to the testimony of Bill and Joan Setnar, the very first of which is on your screen. Bill and Joan were at New York Bethel before they got married in the 50s, when the policy was still that no one at New York Bethel could be married. That changed while they were there, and they did marry after Nathan Knorr married. So their testimony is really valuable. They're both gone now, but they left a great legacy behind. So we've done the videos of their testimonies of their work in Bethel and beyond. And I'll put number 1 on your screen, and also the Setnar playlist, which is over a dozen videos, I think. And they're linked together. See you next time.